Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to the top. In the aftermath of getting bombarded by comments regarding why Gravity Falls wasn't in my top 10 Disney Channel shows list, despite the clear explanation, I ended up watching it since so many of you couldn't recommend it highly enough, and I'm glad I listened, because it's one of the best shows I've seen recently. It's funny, it's creative, both the characters and the way they're written for is probably the best thing we've seen on either Disney television network, and it can pull at your heartstrings too. So naturally, putting together a top 10 list of a show that doesn't really have a bad episode in it was difficult. There are less important episodes, yeah, but bad? Not with this show. So, make sure to share your own favorites down below. With all that said, let's dive into number 10. When I watched this episode, I thought I knew immediately what it was going for. The standard young female gets obsessed with a boy band that isn't what they seem plotline. But the way they execute it, and the hilarious over-the-top way they project the dark underbelly of pop music, was both brilliant. Even though I do love listening to several actual boy bands, I do understand the points against them, and this episode does well to poke fun at several of those points, while also giving the episode a bit of heart as well, and acquiring the voice acting talents of Lance Bass, who, as some of you might remember, was actually part of such a band, was just a smart choice, since several times is a parody of NSYNC. A great way to start off the list. This is one of those episodes that beautifully combines weird and off-the-wall with sensibility and fun. It's the mystery twins seamlessly working together, utilizing everything that makes Dipper and Mabel unique to figure out the secret of the founding of Gravity Falls. It's made even more impactful on Mabel's end because of how Pacifica made fun of her weirdness near the beginning of that episode. It's one of those episodes that has a unique faster pace to it as things keep moving and clues keep being discovered, and all of it works really well here. I don't want to spoil what they actually discover for those of you who haven't seen the show yet, but it's a nice way to end the episode. Following along two different plot lines gives us one of the most emotionally powerful episodes of the show. On one side of things, Blendin has challenged the Pines twins to an intergalactic showdown, and on the other side of things, it's Soos' birthday. It's revealed early on that Soos doesn't really like celebrating his birthday, and the way they build up to the reveal of why is pretty heavy, but in a good way. Soos could have easily been something of a throwaway character in the context of this show, who's only there for comic relief, but I always liked him from the get-go, so it was great to see an episode that really dug into his not-so-pleasant past, and more than that, to see how that unpleasant past translated to him being a great person, an awesome friend, and a loyal employee later on. Nothing more I want to reveal about this episode, just watch it. Surprising absolutely nobody is a top 10 appearance by the episode that introduced us to Bill Cipher, the main antagonist of the show. He's a pretty fascinating character all around, but what sells this episode is how much imagination and thought was used to create it. Everything from the journey into Stan's mind to the climactic battle was wonderfully captured, and also accomplished some great character development for both Stan and Dipper. And as many of you know, Bill's appearance sets up many great moments to come. This episode, maybe more so than any other episode, did so well in capturing its main idea, that idea being Soos getting love help from a computer game he purchased. The slow and methodical way that this episode builds up to pure unadulterated techno-horror was amazing because of how they captured everything visually. This one actually might freak you out just a little bit because of how far they take this concept. I felt that the way it resolved with Soos actually acquiring a real girlfriend was somewhat standard, so it could have been even higher than 6, but still, an exceptional episode from beginning to end. Figuring out the best place for this episode was one of the decisions I struggled with the most when making this list. It's a great episode and a better season finale, with Gideon basically winning and taking over the Mystery Shack. This episode has twice the runtime of the others, so it patiently builds up that feeling of helplessness over what transpired before getting to a point where the twins fight back to take it to Gideon. Some of the closing moments were particularly emotional, especially if you just spent an entire season solving mysteries with the Pines twins, and the way it all resolved is nothing short of spectacular. With this episode, proper timing and pacing played a huge role in setting up the moments to come, and those particular story elements are handled perfectly here for a fabulous finish to Season 1. Now, some might disagree with this particular episode being as high as 4, but I had to place it this high for several reasons. Firstly, it was the episode I watched early on that convinced me of one very important thing, that Gravity Falls wasn't just going to be another show. It was going to be special and mean something, a show that would stick with me for a very long time. It probably won't surprise any of you that I relate to Dipper the most out of all the characters, and this episode perfectly understands why. It's like it was custom made for me and people like me who overthink everything, sometimes to our detriment. The planning, the internal disputes turned into external tangible clones, the eventual realizations, it's all kind of perfect. To create amazing characters, you have to understand people, and this episode, amongst other things, proved to me that this show really thought about the characters they were trying to develop. It also proved to me that Alex Hirsch and the minds behind this show know exactly what they're doing, and I applaud them for doing it. The episode that captures the very essence of growing up and moving on. It even gives a hilarious lighthearted poke to the world-famous Disney Channel franchise that talks about the same topic in its third installment. But beyond the usual great writing and wonderful visuals, this episode had an important task, and that was to set up the jaw-dropping conclusion known as Weirdmageddon. But Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future stands out on its own as an amazing episode because it also reminds you of something else, that this show is in its closing chapters and the summer is nearly over. That realization is kind of rough if you love this show and its characters. We've all experienced that depressing feeling of when a show has reached its end and all you want to do is hold on to their world for just a few more minutes before leaving it behind for now. I've watched Avatar all the way through 4 separate times and that feeling never changes. But before we can say goodbye, we've got some weirdness to beat down, which is a perfect segue to... Yes, for the record, I'm counting all 3 episodes of Weirdmageddon as one for the sake of this list, because it just wouldn't feel complete any other way. If you've seen it, the visuals, the aesthetic, the haunting new theme song they use at the beginning, they all speak for themselves. Heck, I could talk hours just about the mini Mabel universe they created. But at the end of the day, this show is about family, and how important it is to have the people that care about you in your life. Gravity Falls perfectly built up to everything they tackled in the series finale, both in terms of the emotions and the final battle with Bill. I can't, nor would I want to, spoil how it all ends, but I will tell you, tears were shed on my end. These episodes had it all and then some, and I can't imagine the summer ending any other way for the Pines kids. I completely understand those of you who would place it at number 1. Trust me, I struggled a lot going back and forth between Weirdmageddon and what I think is the number 1 episode of the show, and I would say either pick deserves the number 1 spot. The one factor that eventually swayed my decision is something I'll get into when we talk about what I think is the all-time best Gravity Falls episode. But before we get there, let's bring in some honorable mentions.
Man, this game is boring.
You dare challenge probabilitism?
I'll flip the cat back and roll the dice. Don't step to the wizard, cause the wizard don't play nice.
Updated for the non-double deuce. Available wherever dope games are sold.
Peace!
Psych! That's the wrong number!
A really close call between the real number 1 and Weirdmageddon, but I had to give it to Not What He Seems. The one factor that swayed me was the way they went about building up both episodes. I felt like the way they went about building up the central moment in this episode captures the very spirit of the show and why it's so great. It's partially a mystery in terms of trying to figure out the truth behind Grunkle Stan, and it also serves to develop the other major theme of the show, family. I feel that you need to have watched it to truly understand the depths of how both elements work seamlessly together to create the best episode of the show. Again, there's plenty of spoilers in this video, but I'm trying my best to avoid any major ones for those of you yet to watch Gravity Falls, which, by the way, you should be doing. Like, now. But at the end of the day, this episode is one of a couple in this show that I consider perfect, because of how you can't truly know the meaning of everything that's happening and everything that will come to pass until you've seen it all the way through. It's gripping, suspenseful, works with all the major themes of the show, and presents them just as well, if not better, than in any other episode. And it never sells you short on the great writing and exceptional humor that Gravity Falls prides itself on. If you've watched and loved this show as I have, go ahead and share your favorite episodes, memories, and moments. I look forward to reading them. And if you haven't, I hope this list convinces you to jump right in and give it a watch. And thank you, all of you. Without this YouTube channel and your comments, I might never have watched this show, but I'm beyond thankful that I did. I will never forget the way I laughed, cried, sympathized, empathized, and felt during each and every episode, and if that's not the mark of greatness, nothing is. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share it all over social media. And don't forget to follow the Disney Brain on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Links down below. The coming days will bring with it the Cheetah Girls 2 DCOM review, as well as the top 10 best Nickelodeon characters, separated by gender, just like with the Disney Channel list. Also, you asked, and I'm delivering. Before the new season of Girl Meets World starts up, we'll be taking a trip back to Boy Meets World and taking a closer look at the 90s smash hit. So, lots to look forward to. Until then...
If I follow steps 1 through 11, nothing can get in my way.
Dipper, you're the one getting in your way. Why can't you just walk up and talk to her like a normal person?
Step 9, sister.